Episode 4 starts off with our first real hint at the antagonist for the first season, Gideon Gleeful, which we already got a glimpse at the first episode, The Legend of the Gobblewonker, where he was pictured on the newspaper. In the commercials shown in the show, he is depicted as a psychic. Oof, they didn't get Stan in his most flattering moments. Okay, the ad warnings that were running through in the end of the ad were a bit too fast, so I stopped the footage and looked through it frame by frame to get everything that's being said there. The warning says, void where prohibited, no CODs, cash on delivery, accepted. The letter P in the word psychic is silent and used for entertainment purposes only, which is probably a reference to the fact that some people pronounce the P in psychic, even though it's supposed to be silent. A bit like the word pterodactyl, the flying dinosaur. That has a P at the beginning of the word as well, but the P is silent. Same as in psychic. If unsatisfied, please return unused portion for full refund, which is a really weird sentence to say when it comes to the fact that this is supposed to be a service, getting your future readings. So I don't really know how you could give back the unused portion of a reading. But hey, what do I know? I'm not a psychic myself. Side effects may include, but are not limited to, prosperity, wads of cash, which probably hints at the fact that psychics are making a lot of money from telling people their future. I think that's what they're hinting at here. Fun at parties, tight pants. I don't know how that correlates, but I guess. And 6.2% APR, which means annual percentage rate, basically what you would pay if you borrow money from someone. No money down. Psychic readings may cause a warming sensation in the abdomen. If pain persists, consult your physicist immediately. And just by the way, I don't know if I would classify warming sensations in the abdomen as a pain, but that's beside the point, I guess. And last but not least, Carla, I've always loved you, but never had the guts to say it. So a love confession in an ad. And of course, the twins and Zeus do the most sensible thing that you could do after seeing such an ad, and that is to go to said place and look at it yourself. After taking a seat, Dipper remarks that this is a bit like a weird mystery shack, which I don't quite agree with. The mystery shack seems to have a completely different concept compared to this tent. So I don't really know how he comes to that weird connection. The only possible thing being that he already suspects Gideon to be a fraud. Basically like Uncle Stan. He also says that they even have their own Zeus here, a little doppelganger with a bit more hair. And I couldn't read his name tag before when I just watched the episode, but going back now and through it frame by frame, I actually saw that he is called Deuce, which I thought was pretty funny to make it seem like this psychic tent is basically a worse version of the Mystery Shack. Oh, and a few characters are back that we interacted with before. On the right there you can see the couple from the lake, whose child Stan was talking to. And we have the grandpa, who was also on the lake, with his two grandchildren. In this shot we can see the whole audience after Gideon releases the pigeons from his hair. And you can see that the row with the lake grandpa in it has a few extra people that weren't there before. For one, the guy on the right with a bandana and the glasses. And the second dude, the guy with the red and white cap. They were not in the same row before. This is also the first time we actually see Gideon alive and hear him talk. And one of the first things he says in his song is that he has the innate ability to see into the future. Just a heads up, if somebody tells you he has the innate ability to see into the future, you probably should get a little suspicious. That being said, the moment he says that he wants the audience to rise up and he holds up his hand, you can see that he holds his pendant or tie with his other hand. Dipper even mentions that he doesn't know how he did that and why he stood up. So this is the first time in the episode where we can see that there's something up with Gideon, but we don't get a glimpse at what it is quite yet. And this guy with the pointy mouth and the big ears wasn't in the same row as the lake grandpa either. So there we have another human being that just appeared out of thin air. Gravity Falls is truly magical. When ending his song and saying thanks for visiting, Gideon looks back at the audience, but this time not the one in the tent, but technically at the viewer. Of course, this could just be seen as a little nod, nothing special for a show, but with a theme of psychics and something deeper behind this whole thing, that gives it a little bit of a weird twist when thinking about that he would be looking at us as the viewer. So after the twins walk away, you can see Gideon come out of the tent and look after them, and this stare already pretty much establishes what kind of guy Gideon could be. This is absolutely creepy. Broken-ass continuity check? Yep, still up on top of the roof. Mabel, being the arts and crafts genius that she is, bezazzled her whole face, even her eyelids, which apparently seems to be pretty painful when blinking. And as she correctly states, she's just unappreciated in her time. She is truly an artist. Okay, utterly enchanting wasn't really the phrase used the last time I puked. But hey, to each their own. Here you can see Mabel come back from her dress-up session with Gideon, and there's a small but pretty significant error here. You can see that Dipper is holding the journal, but if you look closely, you can see that he isn't holding journal number 3, but somehow he magically acquired journal number 2, which he shouldn't even have. So I thought this scene was a bit weird and maybe a bit out of character for Mabel, because I can understand that she wants to do some girly stuff, and Dipper is normally not the dude who'd go with that, but her not being interested in seeing sausages get popped in the microwave seems a bit out of character for her, so I don't really know why she didn't go with it. Maybe they just wanted to bring home the point that she actually tries to find someone that would play dress up with her, like Gideon did. After Gideon convinces Mabel here that she should go on a date with him, you can see them hug, and there's an odd cut in there. First, you can see that her head is turned to her right, so on the left of Gideon here. But after the cut, you can see that her face is on the right of Gideon, and she also has her hands around him, which she didn't have before. Oh, and he's a creep because he's sniffing her hair. After Mabel is done gaslighting herself into believing that it was a good thing to just go on one single date with Gideon, she goes to open the door, and that there is definitely a hazard. And we're getting back to the weird decorations. This time we have a dodo in the background. 'Cause who doesn't have a taxidermied specimen of an extinct animal standing in their hallway? Yeah, knocking at someone's door while riding a giant white horse and wearing a cowboy hat doesn't scream red flags at all. And apparently both of them are the talk of the town, because while they're sitting in the restaurant, you can see that everyone's looking at them like they're some kind of exhibit or exotic animal. Back in the shack, we can see Zeus holding a magazine, which actually has Mabel and Gideon on the front cover, which I thought was a bit interesting, because there's not really a name for the magazine on the cover, but just both of them, which could of course just mean that they wanted to focus on the theme that they are both handled as boyfriend and girlfriend, but it could also mean that Gideon is actually publicizing a magazine with this front cover. But maybe that's just going a step too far in theorizing what this could be. Yeah, for the naming, I'm going with the latter one. That sounds the most interesting. Oh, and Grunkle Stan says Scheister here, which as a German sounds pretty funny, because the first part of it, when you take away the TR, would basically translate to shit, just in German. So I thought I'd just throw a little German lesson in there. Some good old German swear words. So yeah, have fun with that. Do whatever you want with it. And after Stan throws his hissy fit about Mabel and Gideon supposedly dating, Dipper also says that he didn't hear anything about it, but told her not to. which wasn't the smartest idea to say because that's basically a dead giveaway that he could have done something about it. Oh yeah, I'm with Stan on this one. This painting is just great. How convenient that this family just had a cash register standing around somewhere in the hallway. If this is what you see, and you still think that this date was a success, bro, you can't read the room at all. And now we get to another underlying theme throughout the whole episode, which is saying no to someone that you actually don't really want to do, which is something these episodes often enough do, to have an underlying theme that is basically universally applicable to being a young kid or being a teenager and yeah, just dealing with stuff. Trusting old man McGucket with ferrying around 2 kids is pretty questionable, at least going from the fact that he built a giant, dangerous robot to get the attention of his son. This seems to be a bit of an odd decision. Dang it, kid, take the hint, man. Ew. And then we got Stan again, dropping a truth bomb on us. Bodies change. One day you have a full head of hair. The next one, your head looks like you slipped with a razor and cut half of your hair off. After getting a short foreshadowing of a freak out that Gideon could have, and Dipper tells him that Mabel doesn't want to see him anymore, we actually get to the freak out right away, and we got a little bit of an error in the background here. If you look at the door, there are a lot of pictures of Mabel. Let's call it a Mabel shrine. And you can see that there's not really a picture in the middle, but in the next scene, you can see that Gideon is burning away Dipper from a photo with Mabel on it, even though that photo wasn't visible at all before. Yikes, kid, pipe down. Telling your old man that you can sell and or buy him is a bit rough. Oh, and Gideon's dad also seems to enjoy drinking mega pints.
A mega pint?
Of pit cola, because that's a huge can. Woo! We're going in 2 for 2 this episode with more decoration. This time, we have a Cyclops head in the background, and technically also a hammered together bear head with a horn on it. Yeah, so for a smart kid like Dipper, this seems to be a pretty stupid decision. What kind of reputable reporter would like to meet with a kid in an abandoned factory in the middle of nowhere at 7 p.m? Yeah, we get some great advice from Wendy here. Not. She's just counting along while saying the names of all the dudes she's already dumped. And this one would probably be a lot easier if she had more than 8 fingers, even though this time it works out because she dumped 8 dudes, so it's not that big of a problem. Oh, and when Mabel says thank you to Wendy, she doesn't look at her face. For some reason, she looks at her head instead of looking her in the eye, but what do I know? Maybe that's just Mabel's thing. Yeah, doing a sneak attack and screaming while doing it doesn't really go together that well. And now we get to counting fingers one more time. This time, Gideon's. He has 5 fingers instead of 4, like the twins or Wendy. And I already had a discussion about that with one of you in the comments. And my thought on why he has more fingers than the twins is that he is supposed to be basically the polar opposite to the twins, being a kid that behaves more like an adult and handles things a bit more intense than they would, taking it to more of an extreme. So that's why I think, at least, they drew him with 5 fingers instead of 4. And apparently the reason why they drew kids or slimmer characters with 4 anyways is because it's just easier to do so. So there had to be a reason why he got 5 fingers. And after the fight, and when the both of them jump out the window, more involuntarily than anything else, we get Magic Mabel. I told you, she was a wizard. I told you. But this time for real. I have a theory on why she's able to use the amulet as efficiently as she does, compared to when Dipper held the amulet, because he had it in his hand, so he could probably have used it. But she seems to be able to use it innately. I think that could be because she's more inclined to the fantasy and creative side of things, while Dipper is more on the logical and technical side of things. So maybe it's easier for her to use magic. And to go back to a point I made earlier, that Gideon grabbed the tie when he told everyone that he would like them to stand up. He actually commanded them to stand up. That's why Dipper said he didn't know why he got up in the first place, because Gideon made them. And here, close to the end of the episode, we still get more foreshadowing about Gideon being the antagonist for the whole second season, because he says that he will come back when he leaves. And when we get the zoom out, you can actually see the aquarium, and I don't know where the lobster went. Mabel definitely put it in the aquarium before, when she saved it from the restaurant, but you can't see the lobster in the aquarium anywhere. And in this last scene, we see Gideon plotting again, and we can also see a little triangle on the glass in the background, which has something that looks like an eye in the middle of it, which of course isn't supposed to be any foreshadowing for any later episodes or something, so I guess we can just push that to the side. And here we are left with the knowledge that Gideon actually possesses the second of the journals, which is interesting because, as I told you earlier, you can see Dipper already holding the second journal, so I guess that is where the mix-up came from. And in the journal, you can see that the idea of the amulet was written down in there, so that's how he got it. And just a last little thing, when Sue spins here with the little fake gems on him, the light is actually going in the wrong direction. He is spinning clockwise, while the lights are going counterclockwise, which is not how light works. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mysteries of Gravity Falls. This one's a bit shorter just because it's mainly packed with story and there aren't that many things that I was able to point out, but short and sweet. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode, maybe consider leaving a like and maybe even subscribing or sharing this series with someone you think could also enjoy it. So I will see you in the next episode of Mysteries of Gravity Falls. Until then, see ya!